the good old hockey game is the best game you can name. And the best game you can name is the good old hockey game. Oh, the good old hockey game is the best game you can name. And the best game you can name is the good old hockey game. Oh, the good old hockey game is the best game you can name. And the best game you can name is the good old hockey game.
Other YouTube's Mark again. I'm going to do a video a little different than anything I've done before. Any of you who have watched my videos will know that I'm really into classic rock, some new stuff, some progressive stuff. Not a country fan, and I'm not a huge fan of folk either. However, I do have to bring to light a Canadian artist who I fell in love with when I was about 17 years old. My dad brought the record home. This is the record, not the original copy, but this is a copy of the record he had brought home. Stompin Tom Connors, Bud the Spud. Now, if you're not from Canada, there's a good chance you've never heard of Stompin Tom. He is really a Canadian icon, living, in my mind, he's a living Canadian legend. And his songs all deal with people and places that he's been to in Canada. He doesn't sing your traditional country song about, you know, man loses woman, man sits in bar and cries in his beer, and blah blah blah. I don't really know if there's any real songs in here about loves he's had in the past. It's more of people he's met and places he's seen. So the album is not at all in any kind of a depressing type mode like some of the older country songs are. It's most of his music is very uplifting, and a lot of it is very humorous. He's not afraid to poke fun, but in a good way. He's not at all in any way cruel to anybody. He has a good time, and people who've seen him in concerts have a great time. He's just a fantastic entertainer. His voice is not like Pavarotti, let's say. He can be compared to, I guess you could compare him to Johnny Cash's voice a little bit, maybe not quite as low. He got his name for Stompin from, there's a story behind that. And you can see in this picture here, he's standing on this piece of plywood. He's got his left foot in the air. And the story behind that is when he first started out, he'd play at taverns and bars and stuff, usually packed taverns and bars where it was so noisy in there he couldn't hear the music that they were playing. So he used his foot to stomp the stage and keep time, and it helped him in playing his guitar. And what was happening was he was knocking holes through the stage, and the establishment owners were complaining about it, and so he finally started bringing a piece of plywood to his show, and it rapidly became his trademark. He'd show the plywood before the show started, put it on the floor, and then after the show, when it was over, he'd lift the plywood up and tilt it, and you see all the sawdust fall off, and oftentimes there would be a big hole in the middle of the plywood too. And this has followed him right throughout his whole career, even to today. Although today he doesn't stop like he used to. He's 76 years old now, but really that's about the only thing about him that's slowed down. His stage performance is still great. What he is an entertainer. He's not, you know, he doesn't put on airs. You know, he just tells great stories. He's got a great sense of humor. Half of why I like going to his shows is that, and I've seen him 3 times now. The most recent was 4 years ago, and it's his stories. He tells some great stories. He'll do his songs, and in between the songs he tells stories. Very humorous stories, and some of them are, or most of them are actually. And he appeals to a wide range of people. Like it's if you go to any of his shows, you'll see people as young as 10 and as old as 100 at these shows. Like it's just amazing. And it's not like he's out there where people hear him on the radio and say, oh, I like Stompin' Tom, because he's not really out there. He never really was really out there, but his popularity is kind of handed down from generation to generation. Like a little kid today would like Stompin' Tom because his parents like Stompin' Tom and their parents like Stompin' Tom. So it's kind of like a handed down kind of a thing, and that's how I got to like him. It was through my dad. My dad really liked him, and we went to see him when I was 17 years old. Our whole family went, my mom, my 2 brothers and my sister, my dad. We went to see him at Hamilton Place in Hamilton, Ontario, which was still a fairly new theater, but man, I tell you, we were like third row from the front, and the acoustics in that place were just amazing. I've been there several times, and it was just so great to be that close to his show. And anyway, I just wanted to show you a few of his records. Again, if you're not from Canada, or even if you are from Canada, you might not really appreciate him either, but a lot of you outside of Canada probably never heard of him. I know that some of you have, though, because a couple of the albums that I'm going to show you I got off of U.S. sellers, so I know some of these albums have made it across the border. Although, like I say, he sings strictly about Canada and its people, and that's kind of one thing to really admire as a Canadian is you know, how he perceives himself as a Canadian. So anyway, the album you're hearing again, Bud the Spud. Another one of his earlier albums is My Stompin' Grounds, and this was 1967. Love and Laughter. Kind of a cool picture of him on the back here. You can see he's got his foot in the air there, and he's got his piece of plywood there too. If you, let me bring it closer. And you know, the audience in front of him. To It and At It. I love that song because it's a song about procrastination, and I am a procrastinator a lot of times. I'm probably a procrastinator most of the time about things. And the chorus kind of goes, if I remember correctly, you're to it and at it and to it. You got to tune your attitude in. If you don't get at it, when you get to it, you won't get to it to get at it again. And that's, you know, it's a funny song, but it's so true. Pistol Packin' Mama. Now this is one of his few albums that it's not his own work. It's all covers of very old folk and country songs. Most of these songs have been long forgotten. There are a few on here that people might know. Yellow Rose of Texas, for one, he does a version of that on here. But a lot of these songs are like from the 30s and the 40s and even older than that. North Atlantic Squadron. This is my second album of his that's all cover material again. Same idea as the one I just mentioned there. He does a version of Red River Valley and an old Hank Snow song, My Nova Scotia Home. Even a lot of you Americans will know this song, the hockey song. If you're hockey fans and you watched Hockey Night in Canada, you've probably heard the hockey song before. On Tragedy Trail. Love this album too. It's almost as much as Bud the Spud, and it's Stompin' Tom live at the Horseshoe Tavern. And the Horseshoe was an establishment in Toronto, and Stompin' Tom became a mainstay at this place and really put the Horseshoe on the map. They had a lot of fairly big acts that went there. I don't think it's in existence anymore, but great album. Stompin' Tom's most recent work, he hasn't really done too much in the way of putting out albums. This was in 2008, and it's called The Ballad of Stompin' Tom. He's got a couple of remakes on here too, one including the hockey song, and there's a whole bunch of new stuff on here as well. The cover's kind of cool. It kind of shows him when he was younger and the way he looks today. And lastly, Stompin' Tom, a proud Canadian, and that basically sums up Stompin' Tom, because that's exactly what he is. He's a proud Canadian, and not only is he proud, but knowing that he's such a proud Canadian makes me more a proud Canadian. And I think that's his biggest attraction, is that he really makes you think about where you're from and how lucky we are to live in this country. And for that, Mr. Tom Connors, I thank you. Thanks for watching, BC.